Joe, big news coming in college football as it is expected that six-time head coach, Super Bowl winning Bill Belichick is going to be the next head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels. Um, man, I'm kind of flabbergasted by this. I know that's a big word, but what are your thoughts about Bill Belichick expecting to be the next head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels?
One, I think it's great for the end of his career, not jumping back into the NFL, but we're not here to talk about the NFL angle. From the college side of things, the sport of college football is becoming extremely professionalized. And we're seeing Jed Fish, who has a pro background and was actually at one point a part of Bill's staff in New England. We're seeing the way he's running things at Washington.
His OC is at Boston College.
Right. I really think that this is going to work because of his understanding of how to manage personalities, guys that are getting paid, and also understanding how to nickel and dime rosters. He has been the king of that in his time when he was in the NFL, of not overpaying and giving too much money to certain players on his roster. He's going to find ways to get the most out of his players. But I think just separate from if he's going to succeed at UNC or not, which he will, it's easier to win in the ACC than it is in any other conference. I think that his ability to put the professional print on the sport is good for the future of the sport, to be able to create processes and approaches that the college game has not had since this whole transformation. I think that we're going to see ripple effects that are going to help the sport, to have a different voice that comes from a different perspective. And it's not just a random former NFL coach. It is actually a guy that has been a premier Super Bowl winner, the greatest NFL coach of all time. So I'm excited for what this means for UNC, and I'm excited for what this means for the college game overall.
Here's the thing that I don't want to say issues, but the concerns that I would have about Bill being in a college locker room versus an NFL locker room. Even though the game is starting to professionalize in so many different ways with NIL, collectives, TV revenue share, and all of that, I still think, though, Joe, that there's a big difference in what happens in a college locker room versus a pro locker room. He could, we hear the roast of Tom Brady. Stay with me. We hear the roast of Tom Brady and all of those guys making fun of Bill for how he said things to the players, how he treated everything like a business. They would blow out a team, and he'd come in there the next day and start cursing them out and telling Tom Brady he sucks, and to try to motivate his team. He's going to have to change his approach. You cannot go in there with 18 to 22-year-olds and act like you did in the professional ranks in the NFL than you do in college. Joe, you talk to coaches. I talk to coaches. Being around players that we have done NIL deals with, it's a completely different scenario. So that's one aspect of it that when I look at Bill Belichick, I just say to myself, how does this one play out, right? Like, how does this one even, like, can he change his way in that? Now, there is some reporting that his son would be heavily involved, and I think that he would have more of an idea of, directing his dad in different ways. But as it seems like this may be expected that he's the next head coach, there's another concern that I do have. You can't nickel and dime in college football like you maybe can nickel and dime in the NFL, and let me explain. When you nickel and dime on the top programs, this is what we found out in recruiting so far. Joe, when you recruit a class, historically speaking, 7.8 players stay per class. So that means is either he's going to have to evaluate at a high level, which he's done, and nobody can take that away from him. He's just going to have to do that at a microcosmal level because there's more teams in college and in the ACC he's going to be battling, because in the draft or free agency, he has a pretty good idea of where he's going to be selecting and what he's going to be doing. Now it's a free-reign capitalistic society in the sense of he may be going after the quarterback that's committed to them. But there's also LSU, Penn State, and all these other teams that are going after. It's a completely different ordeal. So where I agree with you on this, I think on the field, North Carolina would be highly disciplined. They would be fundamentally sound. If they're not doing the right thing, it's not because Bill Belichick doesn't know how to coach. I think that there are concerns that I would have as a fan going into this. Hey man, we've never seen you go into a recruiting battle ever. And is there enough funds to where do they want to be? You don't make a splash like Bill Belichick to be your head coach if you're not willing to go all in. So if you're willing to go all in here, you're going to have to – and look, this is the same thing I said with Kalen DeBoer. The same thing I said. Look, man, you're going to have to go in the SEC and recruit and show that you can. He did. And we could sit here a year from now, Joe, and say, bro, why did we ever doubt the greatest head coach of all time in the NFL if he can do in this? Now, on a lighthearted note, if he can recruit his current girlfriend, he can recruit any college player to come to North Carolina, and you can't tell me otherwise.
Mine is separate from that point. I think his ability to recruit is a lot simpler than it's going to be for any other coach in the sport, especially for his couple years.
I disagree.
Wait, stop. Let me get what I'm trying to say here. His ability to point to the fact that he has won Super Bowls and knows how to develop and lead guys to the NFL, that is something that no other coach in the sport has the ability to say. He's not going to have to put in that same level of effort. And we have questioned Deion Sanders and his approach to recruiting. I think that and that's a professional style of recruiting. I think that Bill Belichick is able to, just like Deion Sanders is, to have a little bit more grace to say to kids, like, you're coming to me. If you want to be a part of this program, that's on you. And he's able to attract certain personalities to come play for him. And it has worked already in 2 years. I think that Bill Belichick is able to do a similar style. And the other part about this, I think that the nickel and diming approach is important for a program like UNC. If he was going to Alabama or he was going to Michigan, I don't think that would work. You need to be willing and able to spend the most money in order to attract the premier talent and then develop them and then turn them into the top players. UNC is not going to be a national championship team under him. It's just not going to happen. But can they?
And why are you making that move?
You're making that move to have figuring out and improving the direction of your program and being a winning football team. I'm sure that I'm not saying that there's no aspiration to win a national championship, but you're bringing him in to win the ACC consistently and compete for the top of the ACC in an era where the top of the ACC is wide open. So I think when you're UNC, where there is money to be had, but most of that money is going to go towards basketball, that he is going to be able to, with limited funds, know how to properly and effectively spread money around in order to build the right roster. So that's why I'm optimistic. I think his understanding and approach of roster building that did not work in the final years of his time with the New England Patriots can work and can be applied to the college game.
I disagree with you on the recruiting aspect. We're seeing, like, for example, how does Kirby lose a in-state 5-star defensive tackle? It's not, Kirby's got more skins on the wall than Sark does, right? I mean, that's not even like remotely a thing. It doesn't just happen at one like level of 5-star. It happens in multiple levels of the team that's going to overvalue and pay. Joe, is a big deal. Now, to your point, though, I'll give you this. You brought up a point the other day that I thought was massive. Okay, the part that you brought up that was massive was the fact that he does know how to run an organization. Now with TV revenue share coming in, he'll be better with that. The point that you make there is brilliant. I don't argue. It is what it is. I just don't know if mentally I can comprehend, like, if you're not going to win, then why are you doing it now?
Oh, but it's not they're not going to win. It's just that the understanding of that you're not making this hire to win a national title in 3 years.
No, but you also don't bring a guy in there and you're not going to give, like, you're not going to bring him in and then not give him everything he needs to go in there and win.
I think that they're going to try to, but Bill Belichick,
North Carolina's got a crap load of money.
But a lot of that gets spread out and goes towards basketball, Blake. So,
Joe, we literally just saw a non-basketball entity in Arkansas completely shift their focus and go somewhere else. I think what we're seeing here too is, in these instances, football TV revenue and you getting $20 million to go to a playoff, you're making an investment that he can lead you there in the ACC. You're not making a move like this. You're not calling a six-time Super Bowl winning head coach. You're not giving him keys to the outright football program not to be a contender.
You're misunderstanding me. I'm not saying that you just hire him and it's like, oh, whatever happens. Like this is just fun that he's taking over UNC. I'm saying that there is an understanding of realistic expectations for a program like North Carolina, that you're hiring him. And there's also not a super long window because he's in his 70s. He's not taking this program over for the next 20 years. He'll be probably not alive for that long. This is a hire to shift the direction of the program. And it takes time to shift the direction of a program like North Carolina that can be good and turning it into a contender. It's not going to happen in 3 years. Look how long it took Dabo to turn a good Clemson program into a national championship contender. It took him 5 or so plus years before they really hit that true trajectory. So I think that this hire, and you mentioned his son, is bring him in order to enter the top 15, top 10 conversation to win the ACC, to go to the playoff. And then maybe by the time he retires, maybe they are in that national championship conversation if everything goes according to plan. I think you hire him with that hope, but an understanding that it raises the floor of the football program.
You fired one 70-year-old coach and hired another.
And see if it pays off.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. The only other thing I'd add here, I talked to somebody that their child goes to, or their son or daughter goes to UNC. I'm going to leave that part of it alone. But apparently Bill's grandchild goes to UNC too.
Oh,
One of Bill's grandchildren goes to UNC too, allegedly, or niece or nephew, whatever it is. So, look, it's also being reported before we get out of here. Chris Lowe of ESPN says the UNC search has been scattered, sources say, within an uncertainty in the industry about who is running it. The Board of Trustees for North Carolina, John P. Pryor, has been key on getting Bill Belichick as his next head coach. He has been advocating throughout the process that he wants to galvanize a group in the school behind Belichick's potential hire. So not completely done yet, but it would seem as if that they're trying to go in this complete direction. So if they finalize this, Joe, it's going to be absolute chaos in the world of college football.
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.